Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Thanks for your patience with the late start this evening. I know it's a little bit later than normal, but a busy day today. Quick follow-up before we get into it. I did send out that email like I had said yesterday for those of you that were interested in that. That would have come around 8:15 p.m. Central tonight, 1:15 a.m. UTC, and that'd be from a shareloft.com email. Just want to make sure that no one's getting phished. I know there's a lot of that type of stuff that goes on with YouTubers and social media accounts, so just want to make sure that that's clear. The subject on that would be update from Rob Maurer. So anyway, getting into it, Tesla today down 1.5%, closing at $180.45, while the NASDAQ was barely up on the day. Most of the other indices down though. Kind of a wild day again, just seems to be the trend for the last couple of weeks, but we had more banking news throughout the day. First Republic Bank said it's weighing its options, including a sale. Credit Suisse was facing some question marks, as it has been for quite some time, but so probably not too surprising there, but high default risk there for Credit Suisse. But the Swiss National Bank did say that they plan on backstopping and supporting Credit Suisse. So Credit Suisse is planning to borrow $54 billion from them, hopefully alleviating some of those concerns for Credit Suisse. And then we also had a significant and positive producer price index PPI report. This actually declined month over month. So the headline number here was down a little bit more than 0.1%, 15 basis points from the prior month. That was about 40 basis points below the expectation of a 0.3% increase month over month. Obviously the CPI came in really hot, so it's surprising and exciting to see that this has not been the case for the producer price index. People generally feel the CPI kind of lags a little bit behind CPI, or CPI lags a little bit behind PPI. So positive to see this sign here. If we look at core, that was flat month over month. So again, that was about 40 basis points, 30 basis points or so below expectations. Bloomberg did point out that for goods at least, so not the entire producer price index, but for goods, the declining price of eggs, which has been kind of skyrocketing lately, was responsible for about 80% of the pullback, again, just for goods. So interesting to see that. But anyway, with all of this macro volatility, the expectations for interest rates from the CME FedWatch tool staying about the same as yesterday. So 35% expectation of rate pause, two-thirds expectation for 25 basis point increase. So again, we'll find out more on that next week. All right, getting into Tesla news, we've got an update here from Elon. Late last night, he said that version 11 is going to start going wide this weekend. So we had previously heard from Elon that it would be a 11.3.2 release for that broader expansion. I have had a little bit of an opportunity to test this out now. I know I didn't have my car when this first came out, but it's been good so far. I haven't shared many thoughts because I haven't had much time to put miles on, probably driven like 20 miles or so, but it's been nice. The offsetting on the highway versus semis is definitely noticeable and a welcome change. Definitely seems to be seeing further ahead in terms of turns, but definitely more testing that I'll need to do before I form sort of my full opinion on that. And hopefully everyone will have a chance to do that pretty soon. It seems like everyone so far has been pretty happy with the testing. And I think if this does go wide this weekend, which seems to be the case, that's a pretty good sign for how Tesla is feeling about where it's at the moment. All right, moving on, we've got an update on Model 3 wait times in Germany, Model Y as well. The estimated delivery windows have moved to April to June. Previously, I believe those started about a month earlier. So all trims now April to June for Model 3 and for Model Y in Germany. This is captured well here by Alex Potter, who has been tracking these, of course, in each jurisdiction. We can see the bump up for Germany Model 3 here, so pretty significant. And then same thing for Model Y, sort of in that gray line there. We've also seen a decline in inventory in Europe. This had started to bubble up over the last couple of months, but more recently has been downtrending. I think what we're seeing here, although we did get a big spike here today, this actually just refreshed, but I think what we've been seeing here is Tesla certainly seems to have been doing more batching this quarter than what they did in the fourth quarter. They've talked a lot about trying to move away from that, but we have seen a record number of ships departing from China early in the quarter, and now some of the reporting throughout the quarter has been that Tesla has shifted Giga Shanghai production to focus on domestic deliveries there in China for March. That's why we've been keeping such a close eye on the insured vehicle numbers for China in March, and those have spiked as well. So I think what we're seeing here is just kind of that impact of those delivery waves hitting early in the quarter, rising inventory in Europe, and now that they're a little bit more constrained on inventory as that is allocated towards China, now we're seeing inventory drop and wait times extend. So it's tough to kind of shake out with all these changes and all the different allocation strategies, logistics strategies that Tesla is using, what this actually means for demand. We're just going to kind of have to wait and see, I think, but it is good that at least at this point in the quarter, with that being the case, some of that delivery wave happening, we are seeing that these wait times are extending versus just holding, which would be obviously not quite as good of a sign for demand. So I think happy to see that overall, a couple of those changes on the wait times and the inventory decline, but again, we'll have to keep a close eye on that as it looks like it jumped up a little bit today. All right, we also have an update on China. Tesla Chan on Twitter sharing some information here on the Model S and Model X. Looks like 867 new S and X vehicles have arrived at the port in China from the United States. Looks like these will be the first deliveries then for the refreshed S and X in China, which is definitely exciting to see. A long time coming for those vehicles to make their way over there. Hopefully that helps boost margins and just, provides them their outlet for these vehicles as Tesla's continue to ramp production after the refresh. Also out of China, we've got an update on a story that we had previously covered, and that was Tesla pushing back on some negative press, I would say, on social media from, I believe this person is on TikTok, but back in June, I think last year, Tesla had filed a lawsuit on some claims that they felt were falsified. They have now won that lawsuit, and the person has to pay a $720,000 fine and make a public apology to Tesla for spreading these false rumors. So awesome to see that. Obviously not for that person, but that is, it's good to see some action being taken against stuff like that. This also is pretty interesting because as part of the court case here, as part of the testimony, this person said that the information that they got, which was about supplier pressure that Tesla was putting on and things like this, quality issues, apparently was coming from this person's friend. And in court, they said that the friend could not testify because they had forgotten the friend's name under tremendous pressure. So I guess that's one way to say that you completely made it up, but that seems to be the case. So nice to see a win there for Tesla on that case in China. All right, next we've got some more news on Supercharger version 4. I know we talked a lot about this yesterday, but we can see now that Tesla has officially announced the opening of version 4 Supercharger in the Netherlands. Kind of interesting, we can see the different positioning of the Supercharger pedestals, where it's a little bit more centrally located. Tesla at Investor Day talked about how the cable was a little bit longer on version 4. So this should be a much better system for external EVs, non-Tesla EVs, charging at Superchargers with obviously charge ports in different locations. This creates a lot more flexibility for those types of vehicles. Hopefully less problems with blocking charging stalls in the next spot over. So really good to see that. Obviously the big question is, okay, what's the improvement for charging? Here we can see a photo of it plugged in, and Fritz Vanens, who had already shared some information, said that they currently are the same speed as version 3. Everyone always likes to take a quick look at the rating on the Supercharger pedestals. So there's a cabinet and there's also the pedestals. And on the pedestals, here is the information. This is from Stephen Bink on Twitter, taking a look at the label here. We can see 1,000 volts and 615 amps. So that gets you 615 kilowatts max if you're talking about that. But if we compare to those same ratings for version 3 Supercharger, this photo is from the Tesla Motors Club forum from, I think, 3 years ago. So version 3, you can see it's rated for 1,000 volts and 425 amps, and that would be 425 kilowatts. And obviously those Superchargers, at least today, are only doing 250, maybe a couple of kilowatts above that, but right in that ballpark. So this isn't necessarily a perfect proxy for what kind of voltage or for what kind of current those will pull. And in terms of the maximum capacity, we'll see. It's kind of interesting because on these Supercharger V3 pedestals, where they're rated for 425 amps, Tesla does pull more amperage than that sometimes. They actually pull up to 630-ish. And of course, Tesla's current vehicle architecture, the battery is around 400 volts. So 600 and 400, you're getting close to that 250 rate. And that is currently what these V4 stations are pulling, despite what we're seeing on this pedestal. If we look at the cabinet label, we can see this is the 2022 manufactured, so the version 4 Superchargers, again from Stephen Bink. And then again, same thing from TMC, the 2019 version of the cabinet sticker. You can see that these are very similar. So it doesn't look like Tesla, at least in this location, has made any major changes to what's going on with the version 4 cabinets. So we've got 250 kilowatts as the output power there in 2019. Same thing there for 2022. You can see the output current, 630 amps there, 630 amps here from 2019. So again, it looks to be a pretty similar setup. Maybe there's a little bit more capability there that they can draw out, especially with different voltage in the battery pack. Once that gets up to either 800 or 1000 on things like the Cybertruck, and potentially for other vehicles, like obviously the Porsche Taycan, Lucid, have those higher voltage architectures as well. So long-winded way of saying we're not quite sure yet, but right now it doesn't look, like a huge step change in terms of capabilities, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. And obviously this is just a potentially early iteration of version 4, so this could change at other version 4 locations. All right, next we've got an update on the Tesla shop. Talked yesterday about the branding iron Tesla, today adding something a little bit more functional for some people. The steering wheel retrofit for the Plaid, or for the refresh model S and X. Obviously Tesla now offers that as a free option at ordering, but for those that didn't have that option, if you really hate the yoke, you can now get a steering wheel, $700. Kind of interestingly, Tesla has set up the shop, so there's a QR code here for purchasing in the app. I think Tesla doing that to make sure that you actually own one of these vehicles before making this purchase, just so that they can know and get all the VIN information and probably set up a service appointment for that kind of all right in the app. So kind of cool to see that regardless of the retrofit option here, just Tesla's strategy with how they're implementing that item. Then we do have a couple of items outside of Tesla. Interesting here on the heels of Investor Day. Of course, we heard a lot about Tesla's plans for delivering a $25,000 vehicle or something in that ballpark. Volkswagen today taking a different route and announcing the vehicle that they plan to eventually deliver for less than 25,000 euros. They say that a presentation of this production version will follow in 2015, so really just a concept right now. The language here confused me a little bit at first, saying that there would be the presentation of the production version in 2025. It kind of sounds like they're going to then present something else that is actually in production later, but they do say that this is one of 10 new electric models that they will actually launch by 2026. So I thought they were getting a little bit clever with their wording there, but it does appear that they intend to launch this sometime at 2025, 2026 in that time frame. But again, it's just an interesting contrast with how we've seen Tesla talk about their upcoming vehicle versus how we see Volkswagen talk about theirs. And although seeing a vehicle like this and having a price point and some specs is exciting for the market, Tesla isn't worried about that. They're not worried about exciting the market. They have confidence in their product. They're trying to tell people how they're going to actually make this happen, how they're going to build this at an effective cost that really, is going to change fundamentally the cost structure of electric vehicles versus, this release from Volkswagen just kind of talking about the specs and, how they're going to deliver this vehicle someday. So it's just an interesting contrast. And I think, if you're paying attention, there's a pretty clear superior strategy there. One that's not worried about Osborning and one that is kind of that, variety. So interesting to see that. We also have an update on Mississippi. I meant to put this right before Volkswagen, but Mississippi has actually announced has actually signed into law now. Governor Tate Reeves here announcing on Twitter that they have signed into law some rollback on dealer franchise laws. So this is actually going to prevent Tesla from opening up new stores in Mississippi. I think they've got one store in Mississippi right now that they can continue to operate, but any new stores out of the picture right now after this law has been signed. Kind of an interesting comment here. He says that basically trying to protect the dealers and their service businesses, but also recognizing that innovation in the industry is inevitable, and with innovation comes new companies with new business models, committed to finding long-term solutions in an ever-changing market, despite doing kind of the exact opposite of that. So not great. Obviously not a huge electric vehicle business in Mississippi at this point in time, but something that could have been growing, and I think this sets that back a little bit. So disappointing to see that from Mississippi. And then just the last couple of things, both on GM here. GM's chief marketing officer has retired. Not something super notable, but just kind of interesting, kind of going out on top there, I guess, with the GM Netflix combo Super Bowl ad. But she has retired from GM, so we'll see what their new marketing strategies are with the new person. And then Cruise, obviously a subdivision of GM, has announced that they will begin testing their Origin vehicle in Austin in the coming weeks, and then making that available for public rides sometime soon. So if you haven't seen this, we've talked about it before, but this is a little bit more of a purpose-built robotaxi type of vehicle. So it'll be interesting to see those out on the road and see how those do for Cruise. All right, that is it for today. So as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday, March 16th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.